Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I rise to speak on the Fair Trading Amendment FuelCheck Bill 2026 and noting that the opposition supports this bill. Speaker, consumers do deserve accurate, real-time information when it comes to fuel prices and fuel availability, particularly during periods of volatility and uncertainty such as we are seeing now. And I'll note in that sense, FuelCheck first came in 2016, and it is something that for everyday families, everyday individuals, certainly is impactful, helps them in their decision making. So, Speaker, the measures in this bill to strengthen compliance with FuelCheck obligations, improve reporting requirements and increase penalties for non-compliance are certainly welcome. They are sensible and necessary measures. The bill closes a regulatory gap by creating offences for failing to notify fuel prices and failing to notify when fuel becomes unavailable at a service station. It also increases penalties for breaches and introduces a tiered approach for repeat offenders. At a practical level, these changes are reasonable. Motorists should be able to trust that the price displayed on FuelCheck is the price that they will pay at the bowser. Equally, if a service station has run out of fuel, people ought to know, people deserve to know before driving there, particularly in regional communities where distances between service stations can be significant and fuel availability cannot be taken for granted. And certainly in recent weeks, FuelCheck has become an increasingly important tool for many families, businesses and communities trying to navigate rapidly changing fuel prices and supply uncertainty. So as I said, Speaker, we support these measures that improve transparency and strengthen confidence in the system. But this is the issue, Speaker, is the reality is this bill also highlights a broader problem. That is how long it has taken this government to respond. For weeks now, communities across regional New South Wales have been dealing with rapidly rising fuel prices, supply concerns and significant uncertainty. I remember distinctly speaking to a farmer in my community back in mid-March. We are now well into May to see this response. My colleague, the Shadow Minister, had a bill before this House several weeks ago. In March, I'll take that from the Shadow Minister. In March, a bill was before the House. This isn't a complicated bill. It's not difficult. And yet here we are in May, several weeks after our communities, individuals, families, businesses, farmers have been under immense pressure to see finally a response before the House. So as the government now speaks about urgency, many people across our communities have been asking for weeks, where has the plan been? As I said, in my own electorate, I've received calls and messages from farmers, freight operators, health services, funeral providers, community transport operators and small businesses. These people are all concerned about fuel supply and what happens if disruptions worsen. I've had health providers raise concerns around continuity of fuel supply for patient transport and community vehicles. I've had funeral service providers contact me concerned that they are not recognised as an essential service within fuel allocation frameworks. And farmers raising concerns not only about fuel availability, but certainly also fertiliser supply risks and rising input costs linked to disruptions in ammonia production. These are not theoretical concerns. Fuel keeps our farms running, trucks moving, patient transport operating, and essential services functioning. When supply becomes uncertain or prices spike, the impacts flow through the entire community and ultimately through to the cost of living. That is why many in the community have been frustrated by the reactive nature of the government's response. Other jurisdictions moved earlier on fuel transparency measures. I note again, Victoria moved several weeks on this. That is again why many in the community have been questioning the delays here. The bill improves FuelCheck compliance, and that is welcome. But it does not deal with the deeper structural issue confronting New South Wales, and that is around fuel security and resilience. Again, nearly a year ago, the New South Wales Chief Scientist delivered the Energy Preparedness Assessment 2024-2025. That report warned that New South Wales faced vulnerabilities in its energy system and specifically identified the need to improve liquid fuel resilience, storage capacity and preparedness. Speaker, Recommendation 5 called on the government to explore opportunities to enhance liquid fuel production and storage capacity and better understand the interdependencies between electricity, gas and liquid fuel networks. That report has now sat with the government for almost a year without any meaningful public response. And as I've said, again, other jurisdictions have acted to strengthen supply and resilience. South Australia has moved to secure domestic gas supply and invest in energy security infrastructure. We understand that Western Australia has also moved. Other jurisdictions are actively planning for future supply disruptions. New South Wales is still playing catch-up. This is not simply an energy policy discussion. This is increasingly a discussion about economic resilience, regional preparedness and national security. Australia is one of the world's largest energy exporters, yet we remain heavily dependent on imported refined fuel and vulnerable to global supply disruptions. Recent events have exposed just how quickly international conflict or supply chain disruption can impact communities here in New South Wales. And that is why, Speaker, the New South Wales Liberals and Nationals have committed to delivering a fuel security and resilience strategy if elected in 2027. A strategy focused not simply on responding to crises after they occur, but preparing properly beforehand. That includes assessing the need for expanded fuel storage capacity, examining opportunities for domestic fuel production, including low-carbon fuels, building diesel reserves at critical hubs, auditing supply chain vulnerabilities, and properly mapping the links between electricity, gas and liquid fuels, as the Office of the Chief Scientist asked us to do. Because again, fuel is not optional in regional communities. You cannot run agriculture, freight, health services, construction or emergency response services without it. And while electrification and new technologies will play a role over time, many industries, particularly in regional and rural New South Wales, will continue relying on diesel and liquid fuels for many years to come. So while the opposition supports this bill, we also clearly say that transparency alone is not enough. Consumers deserve accurate information, but our communities also deserve confidence that fuel will actually be there when they need it. This bill is a step in the right direction, but a broader strategy for New South Wales is still required and government remains missing on this. I commend the bill to the House.